Good morning, everybody. It's Peter Stewart, interviewed by Stephen Healey. And I'm Stephen Healey. And with me today is Peter Stewart, and we're going to talk about Peter's business, Aberkil. It's an opportunity to meet Peter, to get to know Peter, and get to know all about his business and what he does. And we're going to get some tips about how to handle bees, wasps, rats, mice, and bedbugs. So, without further ado, let's bring Peter into the show right now. Hello, Peter.
Good morning, everybody.
Right. Okay, I'm going to hide this so that you and I will come side by side like
Okay,
that.
very
All
good.
good. All right. Now, I suppose we best start with introductions. And first question is, who are you? Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Aberdeen. Um, an Aberdonian. I've always lived in the city, apart from when I joined the forces, and I came back to Aberdeen after serving my time, and I've stayed in Aberdeen ever since. Apart from a year gap, I would call it. Yeah, so a true Aberdonian. That's me.
What What do you love about Aberdeen?
Do you know, it's funny, I've met two people who are not from the city and they're Scottish and they
Yeah.
tell me they love Aberdeen. And I asked them why. They says you can go one end of the city to the other and still love it. Now, what do I like? I used to do a bit of cycling. I've had to stop recently. And when you go, it's such a beautiful city. One little fact I'll give you about my city is the one Britain in Bloom 9 years in a row. Then they weren't allowed to compete anymore. So it's a city with a lot of parks. It's the gateway to Deeside where the king lives, etc. When he comes up here, and it's actually a nice city, and it's called the Granite City or the Silver City because most of it in the early days was made by granite. We had our own granite quarry, which is just down the road from me, but it's not like a big lake, and they take canoes in it because there's no granite anymore. And if they have to get granite for the city, they have to go to Japan for it. But it's a
Oh, wow.
wonderful city. It's a wonderful city. It can be the hottest place in Britain. It can be the coldest place in Britain. But the people have a warm heart. And we're very much a cosmopolitan city now because of the oil. We've got people from all over the world living in Aberdeen. And they still are here today. And many of them love it here. In the early days of the oil, people, when they were told you're going to Brazil, you're going here, they would change companies to stay in Aberdeen. So that's my little plug for my city.
Um, okay, now you mentioned the oil industry there.
Yeah.
Uh, what's the situation? Because what I mean, you had the years when it was thriving. What's the situation now?
The city centre's a bit depressed just now. There used to be plenty money. Money was no object. People were going out, but things are a bit tight now. The oil companies watch every penny. In fact, a lot of Aberdonians now live in Western Australia
Oh,
because a lot of them went to because at first Aberdeen had the knowledge from the Americans, you know,
yeah.
from and then we got the knowledge, then went back, and now our guys are away over to Western Australia to live and do the oil there. So it's just about learning your craft, but it is picking up a bit. It's coming back. My friend he's just got he was a quality assurance engineer, and he's got back into the industry after being out of it for 5 years. So there are things happening. There are things happening. It's getting better. I think there's something over the horizon.
So you're an Aberdonian.
Yeah.
You lived in Aberdeen most of your life, but part of your life was in the army. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I started off life as a what they called a junior leader, and that because you can't be in the army until you're 17 and a half. So they took us in at 16, and we'd done 18 months of brutal training, and it was one of the best times in my life. I really enjoyed it. I was fit, yeah, and it give you leadership skills, which I still use today. And then I joined my parent regiment, which is the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, which as a cavalry regiment, but we didn't have horses anymore. We had chieftain tanks. And one of the best postings in the British Army was Berlin. And I happened to be posted to Berlin. And it was there that I learned to drive a tank down the streets of Berlin before I could drive a car. However, it was one time that I really learned something, and I've kept it to my business life as well, and that is communications. 3 tanks went out, I was one of them, and we went to the east side, sitting at a wall, and none of our radios had been tuned in properly. And the rest of the column came out about an hour and a half later, I think, and they went in the wrong direction. So every one of our tanks, we were young soldiers, we suffered for it. And it was a message I got from there, because in my business now, communications are absolutely vital. You call my business today, it goes to a call center take all the stuff in, and then it's passed to the supervisor, and then it's dished out. And I find in keeping in touch with customers, there's nothing worse than a customer knowing what's happening. If you're delayed, phone the customer and say, look, we're on our way. So communications in a business are absolutely vital, and it was a learning curve for me.
Now, at that time in the army, you formed many friendships.
Oh yeah, I mean, thanks to you get many friendships. It's something you'll never forget. Served in Northern Ireland, Cartrick, Berlin, Sinalaga, adventure training in France, and you never forget your friends. And thanks to Facebook, it's unfortunate, Facebook, you're also seeing who's, as we say, passing away to the tank park in the sky. And that's one of the reasons I don't like Facebook for that. But otherwise, most of the time, it would just disappear and you would never see each other again. But you'll never forget your army colleagues, no matter what.
So you came out of the army. What happened next?
Well, you see, let's go back a bit further than that.
Okay.
Around about 1974, I wasn't doing well at school. I left with no education. But a teacher, his name was Bob, an English teacher, he says, I've had enough of you lot. I want you to write an essay about what you're going to do with your life. And I'd written down what I was going to do in my life, and I'd done everything by age 27. And at age 27, I started my first business, which was in pest control. Well, and I built it up from part-time to full-time to employing people. But unfortunately, due to circumstances out of my control, I sold the business. I didn't really want to. It's a thing called divorce. And I started all again. I ended up in London driving a lorry. And then I come back when I got some money, and I started again with the full intention of just working from a van. But then I got quite good at marketing, and the business became busy. And now I've got 4 vans on the road in Aberdeen.
So I've got to ask the question, why pest control?
It's a great question, that, because I once went in a school, they send you to a workplace to see what it's like working. And I was put to a golf bag factory. And all I'd done was make golf bags, standing at the same production line. And all I'd done, unfortunately for me, the clock was in front of me. And I watched it every minute as I made golf bags. And I thought, wow, thank you for this work experience. And even then I said, I will never work in a factory. So part of my essay that I done was I wanted my own business one day. And then I heard there was a job with a big firm called Aberkil. You've maybe heard of them.
Yeah.
And I heard there was a job going, and I'm quite a good salesman. So as soon as I heard, I went and knocked at the door, and they said, "How did you know about that? It's not even advertised." I says, "Yes, and that's why I'm here." And luckily enough, the manager was an ex-major in the army, and he took a shine to me.
Right.
Got the job.
Brilliant.
and later on decided to leave with the intention of starting a business one day, and I did. And there's a lot of ex-forces in pest control because it's varied. You don't know what you're doing one day to another. It's fast, it's furious, it's funny, and you can, one day you're dealing with birds, next you're dealing with rats, next you're dealing with mice, then you're dealing with bed bugs, and then all sorts of creatures coming in to hit you.
Well, you started to answer my next question, which is, what do you do?
Well, what do we do? Here's a phrase: we help people in the time of need, because people phone up in a panic, and our job is to pacify them and get rid of their problem for them. And we get all sorts of people phoning up, some quite cool, some in the height of panic, some have done a runner, left their house and away to stay somewhere else. So we meet all types of people. And what you've got to be is a bit like a doctor. They'll also go and Google, look things up and say, hey, it says this. Well, don't read Google. This is what I will do for you. We will do for you, you know. And so job satisfaction for me is helping a customer get rid of their problem. Okay. Another thing I'd like to say is if you see a pest control person going into a restaurant, etc., and you think, oh, there must be a problem there, 99% of the time in food establishments is just like a fire extinguisher engineer going around and sorting out the fire extinguisher, making sure it's okay. And we do exactly the same. So we work on preventative measures for the food and factories, etc. And we work emergencies usually for houses. They get all sorts of insects and everything coming into their home. And when is a pest? It's when they're out of their natural habitat and they're coming to you.
Right. Yeah, so basically, let's bring myself back on screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you help people. You help people with real world problems.
Yes.
Caused by, I mean, in terms of the number of insects that there are, how many of those are a problem?
Quite a few. Every insect's a problem to everybody that phones in. You'll get some that spread disease, like the cockroaches. You'll get bed bugs that people don't like because they're biting them. And so that's the ones that spread disease. Flies in a restaurant, don't want that. So there's several types. And then we've also got casual intruders. Now, casual intruders are just things that walk in from your there's an insect you should look up. It's called the devil's coach horse. It looks like a little scorpion. But don't get what I call from it. It's a garden insect, but people think it's a little scorpion, and they'll phone us in for that. So we get all weirds and wonderful things, stuff that I couldn't even tell. So what we do is we take the picture and put it over to an entomologist whose life is looking at little bugs. Very depressing. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so can we talk about some of the common problems that people encounter? And we've got a graphic which shows them, so you can see it. Yeah. So let's start off with what basically, when do people know they've got a problem with the wasps?
Well, usually in the summer they'll be outside having a barbecue, etc., and they'll look around the building and they see wasps going in and out the same spot all the time. Yeah. And what happens is they go in and out, then they'll say, oh, we need to get rid of that. And they phone us and we come out. So what people don't realise is wasps can be dangerous as well. They're good for nature, kill insects and things. But I just heard there's a guy we've got in the industry, come into the industry, he's a chemist, and he got a new thing in that deals with wasps. And he says, Peter, if you've heard of Kounis syndrome, Kounis syndrome. Well, after you get stung by a wasp, 3 weeks later, you could be on a mortuary slab because you're on a heart attack later. And I never knew about it. Nobody really did until he came into the industry. So Kounis syndrome. I've had people tackling them themselves. Got to tell you a funny story about that.
Okay.
Woman phoned me up, how much do you cost? And I told her, she says, oh, my husband's going to try first. And I went, okay, tell her to be careful. And the next morning, the woman phoned in and I knew her voice. I says, I know your voice. I says, what's happened? You better come round. My husband has been very badly stung. So I went round to the house and the chap was sitting in his armchair. And I looked at him. And he had the biggest, blackest eye that I had ever seen. I said, oh, you got stung by the wasp, did you? He goes, yeah. I said, whereabout?
You had to check, Peter. You had to check.
I won't tell you what he said, right?
No. I think we can guess what he's saying.
But I've got a terrible sense of humour, you know. But there's times you can be humorous, and there's times you've got to be compassionate.
Indeed. Now, basically, just paint a picture. You sat outside. It's a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
And you're having lunch outside, and all of a sudden, a couple of, well, 2 or 3 wasps come along. What should you not do?
Flap about. Just leave them.
You shouldn't do that.
No. Just leave them and just let them get on their way. But people are terrified of them. As I say, people die each year, and you don't know. I mean, I always read the papers and that, and at least one, I'll pick it up again. I'm a woman in Scarborough, got stung in the finger. That was her life over. She didn't know she was allergic to the wasp.
Yeah.
And that happens, you know, it does happen every year. Just
so don't wave your arms about. Keep still. Just carry on and ignore.
Can I just say, if you get wasps, don't try soapy water. Don't try to put them on fire. Don't try to smoke them out. Don't try hair lacquer. Just leave them and get a professional. That's what I would say. Yeah. Because I can get that powder from a superstore. So how high is it? Yeah, I've got a ladder. Up the ladder you go. No face net. Puff, puff, puff. Stung in the eye. Backwards, broken back. All the sake for about £100. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
But you can give it a try. There you go.
Calling them professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think we wear hair nets or face veils?
To be safe.
Yeah, and we don't even climb ladders. People, I'm 5'5", and I used to have a laugh to say, how are you going to get up there? And I would run forward and jump. I says, oh, I'll get it. And then I took out a set of poles and put them up. I says, because you've purchased a professional, you know.
Yeah.
We've got our insurance. We've got vehicles to pay for. Vehicle insurance is very high now. And it's all part of the package, the traveling to you and the traveling back. Okay. Yeah. And if people say to me about a price, I'll say, how much does your business charge you out at? Okay.
Indeed.
Right. So that's wasps. Right.
So let's look now at something which is they occur naturally. Well, everything does, but mice.
Mice, well, again, we're a seasonal business. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the mice can get through the width of that pen. So after the winter coming in Aberdeen, we get a lot of people, the mice come into their house, and they usually go up in their attic, and they'll go below, they come into their kitchen. And the thing is, I've had a few over the years where they've bitten through the plumbing, causing flooding, and some people will not cover the insurance. I know a woman that was going to cost her £9,000 they refused to pay. But I got on to my broker. I says, help me with this. This is what I've done for the customer. Should never forgot. And he read it. He says, right, they won't pay for the mice biting the plumbing. Okay?
Yeah.
However, they've got to pay for the consequences of that, which was £9,000 worth of work. She thought it was the best thing since sliced bread doing that for her.
Brilliant.
I can't remember if she paid me.
I'm
So
sure.
mice, usually it's quite seasonal in the houses, but mice can come into food factories and whatever at any time, you know. But So that's quite a seasonal job.
Okay, well, how do you remove mice?
Well, one of the best ways to remove mice is to seal your building properly. We will give a survey and say, look, you've got a hole there, you've got a gap under that door, you've got food lying outside that will encourage them, and we do everything to tell them how to stop mice getting in for the future. And then most of the time we have to eradicate them using traps and what they call rodenticide. And up in Aberdeen, we've got a very quick rodenticide that puts them to sleep overnight, actually. And that's what we do to get rid of mice. Mice are quite easy to get rid of for me.
Yeah. So given a mice infestation, people call you in, you advise on how to prevent it in the future, and then you take care of the situation.
We give them advice, and sometimes we can price them and do the proof. It's what we call proofing, and that's how we deal with mice. But if you've got mice in a tenement block, that's hard because you can't do the whole block.
No,
you can only encourage that person to seal every hole in their house to stop them getting in. So mice are quite easy.
Right. Okay. Now, in the news late last year, especially in France, were bed bugs.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I just away down to London the other week, and bed bugs aren't as bad as you think. It's still the same levels as it was before, but there's been media hype with it. Great for us, but unfortunately, let me tell you now, 99% of people that call me in regarding bed bugs are not, Stephen, what do you think? They're not bed bugs.
Not bed bugs. No, I was going to say that. I was waiting.
Most of the calls are not bed bugs. They phone in, and usually I can say, oh, that's a domestic beetle. That's an Australian spider beetle. But people are paranoid. I've got two stories with that. Quite sad. So in my career, I didn't see real bed bugs for 10 years. Never seen them. And I went to this woman's house. True story. This lady went into the house and she was white. You could see she was ill. And I'd never seen anything like it. The house was riddled, and I mean riddled, top to bottom with bed bugs. And I says, my dear, how long have you known about this? And she looked at her husband and she says, 3 years. I goes, what? I says, how do you know? She goes, we went to a caravan site. Now, I won't say where it was.
No.
And then it was down south. And English. It was English. Anyway, I said, could you tell me the name of the caravan site? And she said, I said, oh, that's good because I'm away down to the same place next week. But she had put up with that.
Yeah, 3
years. Now, remember I said to you, most people that phone in for bed bugs aren't bed bugs. I know, and I was an old lady phoned me, and usually I says, look, have you got a relative who can meet me as well? So they know the score. I don't like dealing with old people on their own.
Yeah.
So this guy turned out, it's actually a bit, it's emotional. So I went in. As soon as I went in, I knew the house was immaculate. And she goes, look, there. And I went in and I says, this. She goes, that's it. I said, that's a bit of fluff. So I said to her son-in-law, can I see you outside? And he came out with me. And I says, look, one of the problems we get with this is people are paranoid. They think everything's a bed bug next to it. He says, okay. He says, you've proved my point. I says, house is immaculate. There's no signs or certain signs to look for. And that was it. And this gentleman phoned me back next day. And he said, Peter, thanks for coming down yesterday. He says, my mum-in-law's now been put into a psychiatric hospital. And I felt bad about it because I thought, why put her in there? But that's what happened.
Yeah. Situations like that is timing, isn't it?
Yeah, so I deal with poor people. I deal with very rich people. Try to treat them all the same. But that is one that stuck up. And I also get people phoning me and have no money, and I just can't be a charity anymore.
No, yeah.
I've got to make a living, because otherwise I'll be going to charity the food bank, and it is very difficult. You can't take everything on for them, you know.
So, just as a general rule, are there any precautions we take in our house?
Say that again. You broke up.
Sorry. Okay, try again. Are there any precautions we can take in our house against, well, preventing bugs?
Well, that's quite interesting you mention that, because there are quite a lot of products in the market now, and thanks to Dr. Naylor, you give an excellent talk. If you don't have bed bugs, go out and there's things that you can buy for the foot of your bed. If they have the legs, and you put them in the foot of bed, and seemingly that's excellent if you don't have bed bugs, because they will go in there first to climb up. Because bed bugs don't have to necessarily live in your bed. If they can, they will, because they come out during the night and get your when you breathe out. That's what disturbs them, and they can lie dormant for a year. But you put that under your bed now, and that will, one tip to help you. I won't tell you what other products that I'll be using, but if you've got bed bugs, we've even got a new machine that will heat the place up to make them move. Yeah. And so there's a few. They're always in my industry. They're always inventing something new mousetraps every year practically.
Yes.
And the bed bugs, unfortunately, I found out they're starting to get used to the insecticides we're using. We used to say this will last up to 3 months. But after going on that exhibition and listening to that, I'm going to have to look at my methods for later now and be prepared for it not. Insects are clever. They build up strains against things, etc. And but bed bugs, that's not as bad as it seems. But I've had ships, I've had them offshore in the past. Yeah, so many conditions. I think I should write a book about my industry.
You should.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Next topic. Should we be worried about mice? Rats. Sorry, we've spoken.
Well,
rats.
One thing about rats is that one of the diseases they got is Weil's disease or leptospirosis. So if you've got rats in your garden or coming into your home, always wash your hands. Make sure if you've got a cut to clean it and put a plaster on, because that can actually kill you as well. Top of the list is golfers and farmers. We are very much aware of it, pest control, and you actually become jaundiced, right? And there's still people dying with Weil's disease. Not a lot, because you're aware of it. If we've got cards, if I go to the doctor and I'm a bit peely-wally, and I'll say, by the way, I work in pest control, here's my card. Yeah, check I've got Weil's disease or leptospirosis, especially around water, you know. So golfers will maybe hit a ball, go and pick it up in the grass. Rats have been there, comes off their urine, and maybe have a smoke, and then they're touching their lips.
Yeah.
That's why some pubs don't serve you the bottle, the wipe, because they've even known to crawl across bottles in the backyard and things like that. So that's it. So rats will burn your house down by heating through the pipes, and they're quite clever creatures. They suffer from neophobia, and neophobia is fear of new objects. So if you put down poison or some traps, they might not go near it for a week, because they're oh, wait a minute, this is something new. And that's why we don't have quick acting poison, because Stephen, if I went for a meal with two other, John Upton, my friend, and we had a meal, and we all chose the same meal. If I ate the first bit and dropped down dead, would you eat it? No, exactly. Well, neither are rats. So everything is done to go through their system and work about 3 days, and then it takes effect, so they don't know what's happening. And as far as they are concerned, they're getting free food. and that's rats. So when you do get rats, make sure you deal with them appropriately. Get rid of them as quick as you can, and stop them. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest problems we get nowadays is people are putting in decking. Oh, they love decking. They'll go in, establish a base. A rat needs water every day, so if you've got a water fountain or a pond, that's water for them. And then if you feed birds, no matter how you feed birds, there are always leftovers for rats. So they've got a house to stay with you, they've got water to stay with you, and they've got bird seed. Why do they need to move on?
You've just built a hotel, haven't you?
Yeah. And then that's when we come in and do our business, you know.
Right. Okay. And finally, do we need to worry about bees?
Well, yes, we do need to worry about honeybees.
Honeybees, yeah.
In fact, we had a beekeeper on Friday night to a podcast that we do, and the beekeeper was apprehensive of coming on amongst pest controllers, and he was absolutely shocked when a lot of the people that come in about pest controllers are also beekeepers, right?
Yes.
He couldn't believe it. He says, my perception of you guys, right? A lot of pest controllers are animal friendly, right? Mm-hmm. The secret is not to let them. So with honeybees, we've got a code of conduct. If we go to a place and with honeybees, I'm in touch with the local bee association. They will go first, look at it and say, there's no way we can do it. And they can't get them out. And then we can do something about it under the public health, because it's a danger thing if you're in the house. But we try to pass them on. We also do a bumblebee relocation service now. We started last year, and that went very well. And we can take bumblebees away and replace them. In fact, I met somebody from an ecological garden centre that puts flubbers and things in oil company buildings. And can we have the bees? He said, yeah, no problem at all.
Right.
We're still charged to do it, so it's not a free service. I'll tell you that now, because you hardly get any freebies from me. It's because every minute counts, because I'm 64 now. I've got to make every penny of the day count. We will give free advice. I've seen me on a Sunday speaking to someone for half an hour on the phone.
Yeah.
Miss Sheila's going, what about your supper? It's freezing. So bees, we do look after them. We're working well. Now, the biggest problem we've got was bees is not us. The reason we were talking is about the Asian hornet. And I suggest everybody looks up Asian hornet and gets to see what it looks like, because it's a reportable insect. It's got to be reported to the authorities, because they're invasive species, and they're coming in to the UK and the south and places like that. Really bad in France. I know a guy, the only English-French pest controller in France, and he does a lot. He's become an expert at it. But the bee unit, they want to know where they all are, and they want to examine them, etc., etc. But there's no, because they're a threat to the bees. They kill the honeybees.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the one to look out for. Now, they can be dangerous. You get a hell of a sting. They say that people have died from them. I'll sit back on that and learn from that. But certainly, if we are doing them, they're usually quite high, and it'll have to be an appropriate price to deal with them, because they're monsters.
Peter,
yeah.
Close the broadcast. It's over to you.
It's the end of the broadcast, did you say?
We've been going 35 minutes.
Okay, well, I'd just like to thank everybody that has listened in, and if you're listening in after, please make a comment. If you've got any questions, that's the name of the business. Just find me on the internet and pass my name. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks, Stephen, for being your first interview. Thank you.
My pleasure, Peter. So, because sort out the screen, which we will. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure. I mean, the thing is, you just observe the time's just flown by. Yeah. So, for everybody who's watched live, thank you. You'll probably see snippets of this recording later. Peter, a big thank you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Bye.
I'll let you into a secret now. Peter and I have been broadcasting together for over 8 years, and it's always a pleasure to get together on screen. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.